In today's video, the diet is no longer working. You're struggling, you're having issues, you might be overeating at times and you're not making progress and you don't know what your next steps are. Let me explain how to fix it and keep making progress. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from physique.com, and today I want to talk to you about exactly how we're going to handle a situation where you've been trying to lose body fat and perhaps you've been successful for a long period of time, and then the wheels start to fall off. You become food focused. You have some issues with hunger, with energy, with motivation, maybe even sleep. And I'm going to explain exactly how we're going to take steps to kind of auto-correct this and then give you some tools to continue moving forward, because don't give up. I think that's most commonly what I hear is somebody will make a lot of progress. They'll kind of start to get somewhere. They'll get stuck for a little bit and they'll just say, that's it, I've had enough. I can't handle this anymore. And they don't understand how close they were to their goal. So today's question comes from right here on my Instagram direct message. So go there, give me guys a follow, and make sure you send me your questions. You can also questions below in the YouTube comments. I've been dieting for about 4 months on 1,500 calories. I was extremely consistent, lost around 20 pounds. I've added cardio, but I found myself so food focused sometimes, even dreaming about food. I've been getting so fatigued with horrible headaches, brain fog, extremely poor sleep every night, and I've started binging once a week. I'm not sure what to do. I get around 20 to 25,000 steps a day. Not sure if calories are too low for that amount of movement or if I've been dieting for too long. Any advice? Well, first things first, it's very strange for me to hear that somebody's been on the same amount of calories for 4 months. So first things first, yeah, you probably have a little bit of what I call diet fatigue, right? You know, I'm a competitive bodybuilder, and every time I go through this phase of dieting down to get on stage, what I find is the hardest part for me at the end is the fatigue of dieting, meaning it's fatiguing to plan your meals, to track your calories and macros, to kind of be on this plan. And so to alleviate some of that fatigue, there are some steps we can take. Also, if you find that you're starting to binge eat, this is where we can run into some issues with food choice, right? Are you eliminating certain foods and then craving them nonstop? There's an approach there. And then finally, what we're going to talk about is the approach you're taking to dieting, because when I hear brain fog, I think one thing, and we'll address that at the very end. So first things first, have you been dieting for too long? As a coach, putting athletes in a caloric deficit for extensive amounts of time, you start to learn there are tools to help them get through this, because it's not just physically challenging, it's mentally challenging. And what I find, and what we've known about for years, are these things called a refeed. Now, a refeed can look different for different people. I prefer to bring the calories up, let's say 200, 250. So if you're at 1,500 calories, 1 day a week, you might bump your calories up by 250. And I would, for a strength athlete, a bodybuilder, anybody that's interested in body composition goals, I would make that increase almost completely carbohydrate based. Why? Carbohydrates have a huge impact on a few things. First of all, you mentioned brain fog. It has a huge impact on our ability, our cognitive function. It also has a huge impact on our muscle size, okay? Carbohydrates are stored intramuscularly with water, so it increases the volume of our muscle. This helps us psychologically because as we've been losing weight and getting smaller, if we can see our muscles and feel our muscles look a little better throughout this process, it really helps. In fact, when I get very lean, I look so forward to those refeed days that I'll almost stay covered up until I know I'm gonna fill out with some carbohydrates, okay? So that is absolutely essential, that when you start to hit these sticking points, you give yourself these refeeds. The other physiological benefit is that it's gonna improve digestion. It's gonna improve your non-exercise activity, meaning you're gonna have more energy to like move throughout the day, because there is going to be some adaptive thermogenesis that goes along with restricting calories for this long. So why do we stall? Well, first of all, you're 20 pounds lighter, so you're burning less calories doing the same amount of things that you were doing before. Also, we start to conserve energy. We start to move less throughout the day. We're also burning less calories through our normal activities, so you have to compensate by either reducing calories or picking up your activity. Now, you said you're getting 20 to 25,000 steps a day, and while that is a lot of steps, very commendable, you can also increase the amount of calories you're burning during those steps, walking on a hill or an inclined treadmill or an elliptical, kind of finding ways to burn more calories in a shorter amount of time or in the same amount of time. These are the tools that we use to really make progress when it comes to making sure we don't hit sticking points. So the second thing I want to address is this idea of binge eating, and this is something that became quite common amongst competitive bodybuilders. And the reason I bring this up is because that's what I do, that's what I coach, and I understand the history of this. And for a long time, there was an association between contest prep and eating diets that were basically like 6 or 7 foods, you know, things like broccoli and oatmeal and chicken, and you basically are only allowed to have these foods. And it was implied that somehow if you weren't eating these foods, you weren't going to be successful in competing, you weren't hardcore enough to be a bodybuilder, and it's complete nonsense. Straight up, you can diet down and basically any foods that you can make fit your macronutrient goals and that you digest well, okay? And while I don't believe that you should focus on things like the foods that I choose, like things like Pop-Tarts and even fast food and eating out to a degree, what I find is that the reason I am successful is because I understand how to incorporate them. I don't demonize them and I don't treat them as binary. So when people start binge eating, I often wonder if they're treating fat loss as a one-way road where it's only these strict foods and they have to be clean and you have to stick to them. No, calories are what drive fat loss, not the foods you choose. Now, to a degree, the foods you choose are going to help you stick to your diet. However, if you're eating so clean that you're binge eating, I would argue that the opposite is true. Those binges are basically refeeds that you're not really planning for, and there is some psychological damage that comes along with those, okay? There's some guilt. If you plan a refeed, eating more food is a part of your plan, it can actually be a psychological benefit, okay? So you get the physiological and the psychological benefit, and if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, it's called flexible dieting, okay? It's the idea that macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats make up our calories, and that's what drives change. And whether you get some of your calories from Pop-Tarts or from some candy or from some ice cream, as long as you stay within your macronutrient and calorie goals for the day, you're still gonna make progress. So that is a big driving force in why a lot of people fail, because they can't stick to their clean diet, which I'm assuming, if you're binge eating, could be a part of it. Now, the final thing, you mentioned brain fog, and whenever I hear the term brain fog, I start to think about people doing extreme low-calorie dieting. Why is that? Well, carbohydrates, when digested, turn into our body's fuel source for the brain, glucose. When you are very low-carb dieting, you are going to impact cognitive function, okay? You'll hear about this quite a bit with people that have been low-carb or, keto dieting. Now, keto dieting, which is basically so low carbs that your body starts to run on ketones, that's fine as long as you stay in ketosis. But if you fluctuate back and forth, which I actually did by accident years ago, I had my carbs so low, I was burning so many calories, I was going in and out of ketosis, and I was really struggling with the keto flu, and I didn't understand what it was until I changed my approach just slightly, all gone. So if you're gonna go low carb, very low carb, make sure that if you go back and forth, it's going to be a struggle, okay? Carbohydrates are our body's preferred fuel source, although we can do well on ketones, and there are applications that I do believe keto can be beneficial. For myself, I have been having my athletes and myself use carbohydrates intelligently and having insane results, okay? So I see no reason why you shouldn't include carbohydrates, especially if you're taking care of your food choices. Proteins, carbs, fats, and fibers are all being paid attention to. Carbohydrates are wonderful. So a lot of this can be chalked up to perhaps the binge eating sessions that you're having and the brain fog, meaning you're being maybe a little bit too low on the carbs and a little too strict. If you guys know anything about me, you know I'm a big proponent of a balanced approach, okay? We need carbohydrates, we need fats, we need protein to be optimal, to be at our best possible version of ourselves. And this approach that I've been preaching for many years has changed my life, okay? I've taught people how to do this. You'll see the people in our transformation challenge, you'll see the competitors, you'll see myself using this approach. And honestly, I've been doing this for so long now that I find it quite easy. In fact, I'm able to lose body fat, get lean as I want it, stay lean as I want, and have no issues coming out of that diet. Of course, it's all through experience, but you guys don't have to make the same mistakes I made, because you can learn prior to making those mistakes. So let me know if that addresses your question. I would start with a 1,750 calorie refeed once a week. I would also start with potentially taking a diet break. Now, if you're not familiar with diet breaks, complete game changer. Take 1 week, cut your cardio in half, bring your calories up by 25 to 30%, and just go into maintenance for a week and then go back to your cut. Watch the magic happen, okay? I've done quite a few videos on the science behind diet breaks. I've used them for my competitors. I've used them for my lifestyle individuals. It just really helps you. So hopefully that answers your question. Hope you guys are having a great day. Remember to sign up for the Transformation Challenge. It starts in February, $25,000 open worldwide. And we are gonna have a great turnout with amazing meal plans, training plans, and a private support community, along with some discounted coaching if you're looking for one-on-one coaching. All right, guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow.